Hey everyone, I'm calling you up from the laundromat. I was gonna take you for a walk, but it's like a wind tunnel. So I'm sitting here in the car and calling you up because there's so many people inside the laundromat. It's better if I call you up out here and tell you that you will not believe what happened to me yesterday. Some of you already know, ones that were in Jeannie's live last evening, no. But let me tell you, yesterday, what a day. What a day. But you know what? Yesterday was still the day that God made, and we're told to rejoice in the days that He's made, whether they're good days or bad days. That does never change who God is. And what happened was, yesterday morning I went out and did grocery shopping, came back home and rested, and then did some chores and then rested, and then I had to be somewhere for 4:30. So when it got to time for me to leave, I got in the car, and guess what? The car would not start. Now, it has been running fine as far as the engine part. It would not start. It would not crank. It would not do any kind of click, click, click. My lights came on. The radio, I checked, it came on, but nothing. And so I went to that house that's in front of my trailer on the land I live on, that one of my landlord's nieces and her husband, they rented, and they were home. And I asked him if he could come over and give me a jump. I have cables, and he has a really big, heavy-duty truck. So we hooked up the cables, and we're letting the juices flow. And then I tried to start it, and nothing. And he went back in his truck and revved it up. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with allergies. And he revved up his truck, and I turned that key, and nothing. And so my battery posts did have some corrosion, and I don't have the proper brush, but I had a dustpan brush, and I banged off some of that corrosion as best as I could. And we tried again, and nothing. And so I had to call the place where I needed to be to tell them I couldn't be there, which was okay. They understood. And then I went in, and then he went home to his house. And about an hour later, I went outside to let my fur babies go potty, and I went to check on the chickens. And I thought, I'm just going to grab my car keys and try it again. And I tried, and it started up. No problem. So I let it run a little bit, and then I went back in. Well, I shut it off and went back in and did a few things. And then I think it was about 7:30. I thought, I'm going to go to the church to pray for a while. Our church is open 24/7. The doors are locked, but anyone that's part of the church has keys, and we're welcomed and encouraged to go to the church anytime to pray. And so I felt like I'm going to go to the church to pray. It was, I think, about 7:30, or maybe just about 7. And I went in the car, and the car started, and I went off to the church and prayed a while and came out. And morning.
Morning, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Fine.
Good.
Thanks.
Someone was right beside me getting in their car. And when I was at the church, no one else was there. It was not a corporate church prayer meeting. It was just, like I said, we're encouraged and all that to go anytime to pray. So I came out, and car would not start. Same thing as earlier. And then my phone, the battery was just so low. I had to be careful, how long I was going to be on it calling for some help. And of course, I have the car charger, but the car wouldn't start. So I called the preacher. He don't live too far from the church. Neither one of us do. And no answer. And let's see, I called his son that still lives at home. No answer. And good thing I had a big bottle of water with me. But we do have a water thing in the church, a water dispenser. Anyway, well, I was thinking, who else can I call? Most of our church people live far out. So I called one that lives in Plano, and he had just gotten home from work, and I told him what happened, and he said he'd come and see what he could do, and if nothing else, he could at least give me a ride home. I pause because people are walking by the car. I live probably 8 minutes from the church driving, and I probably could have walked home, but anyway, that friend said, I'm going to leave now and head over to you. I said, okay. And then after all that, I waited, and then I called my landlord, and he suggested that I call our friend, the one that did my brakes. I hadn't even thought of that. He doesn't live too far from where I was at, so I called him, and he said that he would be right over. So I had one coming from Plano, then one coming from not too far. In the middle of that, the landlord's friend and my friend, Ronnie, he showed up first, of course. And then the preacher called back, and he was going to come, but I told him that help was here, and then another friend from church was on the way. So he said him and his wife had been grocery shopping. They were going to put the groceries up, but call him, if I needed them. So Ronnie was, looking at the car, and he really cleaned off my battery posts. He didn't have that post brush, but he had some other kind of tool, and he really cleaned those off and oiled up those posts. I didn't know that the posts should be oiled up. I never knew that, but he did that, and then he tried to start the car, and it started right up. Oh, before he did anything, I forgot to tell you this. Before he did anything, as soon as he got there, he put the key in and turned, and it started right up on its own. Can you believe it? And then he shut it off, and then he started checking the battery post and cables, make sure everything was tight. He checked fluids. He was doing all that.
Yeah, left.
And that's during that time is when the preacher had called. Well, he was doing all of that, and then the pastor's oldest son and his wife showed up at the church to go in to pray, and someone else from church had showed up for something, and I told Ronnie, all of the church people are showing up. I said, but they don't know nothing about cars. They know about God, and I'll tell you, we know our Bible, but these showing up don't know nothing about cars. Bless their heart. But Ronnie is the opposite, and thank God for Ronnie and his big heart to help. And then my friend from Plano arrived. So I, let's see, Ronnie checked my fluids, and I was a little low on coolant, and no one there had any coolant. I went in the church and asked, and no one had any coolant. So Ronnie, my other friend from Plano, went in the church and got some water, and we just put some water in it for now because it wasn't that low. Didn't even need a cup full. But just to be, safe and have it full, we did that, and then shut the car off and just waited and hoped that it would start again, and it did. And my friend from Plano that came, I teach 2 of his kids in Sunday school, and so the boy was standing near me listening and watching everything, and I told him, I said, look at, the Lord sent me all this help. Well, the others that had showed up were not too much help because, like I said, they don't know nothing about cars. They even said it themselves that they didn't know nothing about cars. But if I needed one of them to go buy me the coolant, they would. But I was not going to ask them to go do that. Today is another day and I can get it. But I told that boy that I teach, God sent, all these people, and I said, now the car is started up and I want you to pray. I told that little boy, I want you to pray over my car and tell my car, stop giving me fits and get me home and no more of this nonsense. And that little boy mumbled some kind of prayer, I don't know what. But I'll tell you what, I have faith in the prayers of kids. I've worked with kids a long time in Sunday school, and they have such great faith. And that boy, there was another time last year, I had lost my keys, and his parents brought me home, and when I got out of their SUV, I asked him, I said, you pray and ask the Lord to help me to find those keys. And he said, okay, I will. And he prayed in the SUV for me and for my keys. And I went into my trailer. I had to leave for church and leave my trailer unlocked, but I just trusted God would protect my trailer, and he did. And I told that family, now don't leave yet. Let me just go in and look a little bit. And I went in, and just in a matter of minutes, it seemed like the Lord made those keys surface to where I found them. And I went out there. I could have shouted and danced all around that land. And I went out there and I told that boy, God heard your prayer. Look, I found my keys. God is so faithful. And that little boy was so happy. And I believe that increases his faith and children's faith. When you, as an adult, ask them to help you to pray for something, and the Lord answers. And then you go back and tell the child that God heard their prayer, it increases their faith. But I didn't mean to get off on that. But anyway, I got up during Jeannie's live. I had said, Jeannie, you're still live? And she said yes. And I said I had gone somewhere, and I had put in the chat what had happened with the car. And so many kind people in her chat, including her, were giving me all kinds of advice of things to be checking on, trying to figure out what the problem was. And I said, I'm going to go out there while we're in this chat and try to start the car. And I went out and it started, thank God. And I got up during the night for something and went outside and it started. And then this morning, I went out and it started. And while I was out there early this morning around 7, Ronnie came through. He came to check on the car again, and he felt like it'd be safe for me to go out. And so I've made it here to the laundromat, and I've started it up once since I've been here, and it has started. And I'm just gonna hope that it will continue, because it's too hot to be stranded anywhere. And it's too hot for car trouble. It's too hot for anyone to be working on a car outside, to help. But when it first happened yesterday at home, I told my landlord's nephew-in-law, I said, Bible says to give thanks in all things. And we're just going to thank the Lord that this happened here at home and I'm not stranded in a parking lot, And then when it happened at church, well, thank God it happened at church, and I could go in where the AC is on, and there's people to call for a ride home, and my car would be safe leaving it there at the church. We have lots of cameras outside and inside, and anyway, it would have been okay there. And so that is what happened. And I was thinking when all that was going on of a scripture in 2 Corinthians 4:8. I have it, memorized. I've had to depend on that scripture so many times through the years, but it says, we are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. And it goes on to talk about other things and encourage us that we'll go through things, but God is faithful. And he knows how much we can handle too. So I'm thankful for being tested and tried yesterday. I did not get frustrated or discouraged or sad or angry, none of that, because I know God's in control. And I'm thankful for Varney coming to help, and I'm thankful for the people that did show up at church, even though they don't know nothing about cars. If I needed a ride home, hey, there was 4 of them there. That sure would have given me a ride home. And thankful for the friend that came all the way from Plano just right after getting off work. I mean, there's a chorus that says, I'm so glad to be part of the family of God, and it's so true. God calls us to love one another, to help one another, and that's what it's about. I'm sorry that this is just showing you a Coca-Cola truck, but I don't want to move the camera around because of the lady sitting in the car next to me. I don't think that would be good to do, and the only other place I can show you is that way. So I just saw that this video is over 15 minutes. It's probably going to take 24 hours to upload or download, whatever it's called. But thank you for all your comments. I'm feeling better. My hand, the swelling has gone down a whole lot, thanks to God and prayer and prednisone that has helped that inflammation, and ice packs. But I cannot just stay down in the bed or in a chair with an ice pack all the time. I have things that I have to do, like tend to the animals, cook and do my dishes, and today my laundry, so I have to use my hand. But I'm thankful it's feeling better, and I did finish that baby blanket. I mentioned that, and I need to take it to the church and take good pictures and measure it. And several of you have encouraged me to auction off my red, white, and blue Afghan. So I need to figure out a time when I can do a live auction, I guess. And we'll see how it goes. If it sells that way, that's fine. If it sells on my webpage, which it's not listed yet, that's fine. And if it don't sell, that's fine too. I'm trying to put back money to get this car air conditioning fixed, but I know the Lord's going to take care of it all. God owns it all. Bible says God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and then someone added, and he owns the hills that the cattle are on. That part's not in the Bible, but it's true. He owns it all. So I'm going to let you go because the video is getting longer and longer, and I need to go in there and get things into the dryers. But I'll talk to everyone later.